The still heart knows love, the empty mirror, truth. Thoth, apocryphal verse. What if awakening didn't make you happier, but lonelier? You touch infinity, feel one with everything, and then can't find anyone who feels real. The cosmic joke? You became the whole ocean, and now miss a single wave. Hold this line, what comes next flips everything you thought you knew about love. He thought awakening would feel like fireworks, some grand reunion with the universe. And in a way, it did. For a brief, breathtaking moment, he dissolved into everything. No borders, no names, no others. Then, almost cruelly, he opened his eyes, and felt utterly alone. How could oneness feel so empty? It's the oldest paradox on the path. Once you realize you are the ocean, you still crave a single wave to hold. The system remembers the human need for touch, laughter, the warmth of another breath. Enlightenment doesn't erase the biology that built you, it only strips away your excuses. Strange, isn't it? To wake up from the dream of separation, only to miss its sweetness. Every mystic, from Rumi to Alan Watts, eventually chuckled at this same absurdity. Watts called it the cosmic joke, because the seeker spends years chasing union, only to find there was never anyone else there at all. The irony is delicious. The moment you stop being a person trying to love the world, you become the world trying to remember it's still allowed to love. So the first laughter of awakening isn't joy or madness, it's recognition. The universe catches itself in a mirror and blushes. And that laughter opens a quiet door, the beginning of seeing through what most people still call love. Hold that thought, because what we call love next will surprise you. He once thought love was destiny, the missing piece that would finally make him whole. But from childhood, he'd been trained to feel incomplete. Every movie, every song whispered the same lie, you are half. And so began the search for the person who'd fix, heal, or complete him. The market called it romance, the psyche called it survival. But here's the uncomfortable truth, most people don't fall in love, they fall into need. Love stories become negotiations. I'll give you affection if you give me identity. It's subtle, civilized dependency. That's why people panic when their partner pulls away. It's not heartbreak, it's withdrawal. They weren't addicted to love, they were addicted to being seen. Look closely and you'll see how society packages this dependency as virtue. Dating apps become spiritual shopping malls, self-worth becomes currency. Find your person, they say, but few ever ask, who were you before you were looking? The heart becomes a merchant, and affection, a commodity. No wonder it all feels exhausting. And when you finally tire of that game, something inside begins to whisper, there must be more than this exchange. That whisper is not cynicism, it's awakening. It's the first crack in the illusion, the moment you stop mistaking transaction for connection. Because the real question isn't who do I love, but what am I seeking through love? Falling in love feels divine at first, a rush so total it seems sacred. But what's really happening is that the mind drops its guard. It projects all the best parts of itself onto another person and mistakes the reflection for destiny. That's why lovers swear, I've never felt this before. They haven't. They've just met their own ideal self wearing someone else's face. In that rush, the boundaries blur. The nervous system confuses intensity for truth. The body floods with chemicals, the psyche feels immortal, and the world suddenly glows. But here's the catch, it's not enlightenment, it's intoxication. Every cell is saying, finally, I'm safe. Yet the safety doesn't come from the other, it's your own self-acceptance, temporarily outsourced. Eventually, though, the projection fades. The glow turns into glare. The partner who once seemed perfect now triggers every insecurity you tried to hide. That's when most people say, they've changed. But no, the mirror just stopped flattering you. The spell breaks, and what's left is reality, two frightened egos negotiating terms of survival. And still, this collapse is sacred. Because when illusion burns away, what remains is raw awareness. That's where real love could begin, but few stay long enough to find it. Most run back into the next fantasy instead. Yet for those who stay, something extraordinary happens. They begin to see the machinery behind the magic. And that sight changes everything. Awakening isn't always fireworks, sometimes it's fluorescent light. One day, love looks poetic, the next, you see the strings behind the curtain. The mind that once swooned now studies. You watch how attraction forms, how stories attach, how fear hides behind devotion. It's like seeing the magician's trick from backstage, or remains, but innocence is gone. And yet, that loss is liberation. Because now, when you say I love you, it's not a negotiation. You're not begging to be seen, you're witnessing. Awareness doesn't kill beauty, it reveals structure. You see how desire moves, how ego bargains, how loneliness plays dress up as romance, and you smile. You can still dance, but now you know it's choreography, not chaos. It's strange at first, like rewatching a film you once adored, realizing it's all acting. You still feel warmth for the characters, but you no longer believe the plot. That's the moment when compassion deepens. You stop judging others for their illusions, because you remember when you needed them too. You start loving without possession, caring without control. But this clarity comes at a cost. You can't unsee the stage. The world keeps performing love stories, and you can't pretend to believe them anymore. That gap between what you know and what others still chase, that's the next challenge. Because seeing clearly changes everything, including how alone you might feel for knowing. If this is hitting close to home, take a second, like the video, subscribe, and stay with me. What comes next goes even deeper. Clarity feels noble until you realize it isolates you. The awakened eye can't unsee the patterns, the subtle trades hidden in people's I love yous, the quiet fear behind their promises. Where others see romance, you see bargaining. Where they see passion, you sense the anxiety of abandonment. You stop playing the game, and suddenly, no one wants to dance. It's not arrogance, it's resonance. You simply can't sync with scripts that depend on pretending. The small talk, the emotional theater, the rehearsed affection, it all feels like déjà vu. You start craving the kind of connection that doesn't require performance. But finding someone who's also seen through the veil? That's rare. And rarity breeds solitude. At first, this distance hurts. You miss the comfort of illusions, the predictable rhythm of the dream. Friends call you too intense, lovers call you unavailable. But what they really mean is, you see too much. You've stopped mistaking chaos for chemistry. And that quiet knowing makes people uneasy, as if your clarity exposes something they'd rather not face. But here's the paradox, that same clarity that isolates you is also your protection. It filters what no longer matches your frequency. You'll lose company, yes, but you'll gain authenticity. And yet, even as truth becomes your refuge, another feeling begins to stir beneath it, something softer, stranger, and far lonelier than you expected. It's a peculiar kind of loneliness, not the absence of people, but the absence of illusion. You can sit in a crowded cafe, surrounded by laughter, and still feel like you're watching life through glass. You see everyone dreaming out loud, acting out their stories, while you quietly remember it's all theater. The distance isn't physical, it's vibrational. At first, you try to go back. To rejoin the dream, to pretend you don't notice the strings. But every time you do, something inside recoils. It's like trying to unknow a language you already speak. The mind can mimic innocence, but the soul can't lie. Once truth lives in you, pretense feels like betrayal, and even small talk becomes heavy armor. There's compassion in this solitude, though. You stop resenting the sleepers. You understand that their games give them meaning, the same way your seeking once gave you purpose. But understanding doesn't cure the ache. It deepens it. Because now you feel love for everyone and intimacy with no one, empathy without belonging. And yet, that ache carries a secret. It's not punishment, it's refinement. Loneliness isn't a flaw in awakening. It's the crucible where a new kind of love is born. Not the love that seeks completion, but the love that recognizes itself in another awake heart. The next step isn't to escape solitude, it's to let it purify what connection, true, ly means. After awakening, desire itself changes shape. You no longer crave completion, you crave resonance. The checklist dissolves, charm, looks, status, all replaced by one question: can their presence stay silent with mine? You start valuing the calm between words more than the words themselves. Because when consciousness meets consciousness, silence speaks volumes. It's strange how that rewiring feels both liberating and alien. Old attractions fade, new ones appear where depth resides. You notice energy before appearance, truth before chemistry. You stop asking, do they like me? And start sensing, can they see? This isn't spiritual snobbery, it's nervous system honesty. You simply can't return to shallow waters once you've tasted the ocean. At first, the new standard makes the field seem empty. But it's not emptiness, it's refinement. What you seek now can't be hunted, it can only be recognized. It feels less like finding and more like remembering. Two whole beings meet, and something timeless stirs. That moment isn't fireworks, it's stillness that hums. And that shift leads to the next transformation. When you stop chasing the noise of connection, you start hearing the music inside solitude. You realize that being alone was never the opposite of love, it was the training ground for it. And soon, solitude itself begins to change its meaning entirely. Solitude used to feel like exile, now it feels like home. Once you stop confusing noise with connection, silence becomes sacred. You start noticing details you used to miss, the rhythm of your breath, the subtle pulse of life around you. You realize that peace was never the reward for finding love, it was the prerequisite. Integrity grows here, quietly. You stop lowering your frequency just to keep company. The thought of compromising truth for comfort feels heavier than being alone. And in that clarity, solitude becomes an act of devotion, to reality, to honesty, to the soul itself. You stop waiting for someone to join you, you start becoming someone worth meeting. At first, others might see this as withdrawal, but it's the opposite. You're not escaping life, you're listening to it. There's a refinement in choosing depth over distraction. The silence that once felt empty now holds a presence so full it almost hums. You begin to sense that solitude isn't absence, it's alignment. And as that realization matures, something irreversible awakens. You sense that returning to illusion isn't an option anymore, not because you reject it, but because you've outgrown it. You're crossing a threshold where truth becomes your only compass. And once crossed, that door doesn't open backward. Once the veil lifts, there's no curtain call. You can't unknow truth or unsee the architecture of illusion. The lines you once rehearsed in the play of love, those charming lies and strategic silences, now taste false on your tongue. The costume still fits your body, but not your soul. You're awake in a theater still half asleep. That's the strange burden of awakening. You can still enjoy the show, but you'll never believe it again. You laugh, you touch, you even fall in love, but you do it consciously, without pretending the dream is real. It's not cynicism, it's lucidity. You stop needing stories to justify affection. You start loving like breathing, naturally, freely, without script. Of course, This clarity confuses others. They can sense your detachment and mistake it for coldness. But what you've lost isn't warmth, it's the addiction to illusion. You no longer seek possession, only presence. You can hold someone's hand knowing they're not yours, and somehow that makes the gesture infinitely more sincere. There's a bittersweet grace in this stage. You become both actor and audience, living and observing at once. The drama continues, but it no longer defines you. The question isn't, can I go back? It's, what emerges when I stop trying? And from that quiet surrender, something luminous begins to rise, something that finally feels like real love. True love doesn't arrive with fireworks or fate, it emerges from overflow. It's what happens when wholeness meets itself in another form. There's no fear, no strategy, no silent negotiation. You're not falling anymore, you're radiating. Love stops being something you get and becomes something that moves through you, like light through glass. You no longer love because you need to, you love because you can't help it. It's an effortless generosity, not an emotional bargain. Two beings, complete on their own, meet not to fill a void but to celebrate existence itself. It feels calm, grounded, yet infinite, not the burning of desire, but the steady glow of being. This kind of love doesn't demand permanence, it thrives on presence. You don't measure it by how long it lasts but by how truthfully it's lived. One shared breath in authenticity becomes worth more than a lifetime of performance. You stop asking, will this last? And start wondering, am I fully here? And when you finally glimpse that, you realize the search was never for someone else at all. Love was always waiting to recognize itself through you. The seeker dissolves, and the source begins to shine. But even that realization leads to one final paradox. What if this love, rare as it is, may never come again? Real love, the awakened kind, doesn't visit everyone. It's not a punishment, it's a question of readiness. Most people are still chasing mirrors, not seeing through them. And because this love can only exist between two whole beings, it's naturally rare. The world is full of longing, but not yet full of presence. That realization stings at first. You may look around and see people pairing easily while you remain untouched, wondering if something's wrong with you. But solitude after awakening isn't failure, it's fidelity. You refuse to trade authenticity for comfort. It's not that you can't find love, it's that you won't settle for its imitation. So you start walking differently. No more waiting by the door, hoping someone arrives. You live fully where you are, studying, creating, laughing, resting in your own frequency. If love crosses your path, it's grace, not rescue. And if it doesn't, you're already whole. The waiting becomes prayer, not punishment. Eventually, you make peace with the rarity. You stop treating it as loss and start seeing it as refinement. After all, truth can't be rushed. You'd rather stand alone in clarity than together in illusion. And that surrender, quiet, unwavering, is what prepares you for the final realization waiting just beyond this stillness. At the end of the path, the search itself dissolves. You realize love was never hiding in another, it was the field you were standing in all along. The ache for connection turns into recognition, you were never half of anything. You were the source dreaming of reunion, playing hide and seek with its own reflection. In that awareness, the word love changes meaning. It's no longer a verb reaching outward, it's a state radiating inward and through. You stop doing love and start being it. Every gesture, every breath becomes sacred by default. Even solitude feels tender, not a lack, but a fullness too vast for company. You see now why awakening stripped everything away first. it was pruning illusion to reveal essence. The loneliness, the longing, the disillusionment, they weren't mistakes, they were initiations. The journey didn't lead you to another person, it led you back to the one consciousness behind all faces. And from here, even relationships become art, expressions of a love that no longer needs to be returned. You finally understand what Thoth meant by the eternal mirror, the soul gazing into itself, forever discovering more. The story ends where it began, and the one who searched is the one who was found. So here you are, awake, whole, and finally out of the game. You see that love was never meant to complete you, it was meant to reveal you. The loneliness that once haunted you has turned into silence that listens. You've become the mirror itself, and whoever stands before you, you meet them as truth, not need. Remember this, what you seek through another is already breathing inside you. Don't wait for the perfect partner to awaken, let your presence become the invitation. Live so openly that love has no choice but to recognize itself in your eyes. That's the secret no one tells you, love doesn't arrive, it remembers. If these words stirred something in you, stay with it. Breathe. Let the insight settle deeper than thought. Then share this message with someone who still believes love must be found outside. It might be the reminder they've been waiting for. Subscribe, turn the bell, and stay close. The next revelation dives even deeper into what awakening really asks of you. And until then, walk gently. You are already what you were seeking.